Man, I hope y'all enjoyed that hour-long conversation about Funeral Doom and ATRAMENTUS, because I'm about to have another hour-long conversation about Funeral Doom, but this time with ATRAMENTUS. I recently had the pleasure of speaking to Philippe Tougas of ATRAMENTUS, First Fragment, Eternity's End, Cathartic, and a shit ton of other bands about the new album Stygian, about Funeral Doom, about what emotionally and conceptually went into the record, why it took so long for it to come out. It really was a powerful conversation. I've come out of this with more knowledge and more appreciation for ATRAMENTUS and the musical world that they inhabit. However, before we go any further, I'd like to warn you all a little bit. We talk a lot about anxiety and depression throughout this episode. If these are topics of conversation that trigger you based on experiences in your life, I do apologize. I encourage you to watch and listen regardless, but I totally understand if you need to stop the video right here. That's all I really have to say for now. Without further ado, let's get right into this very special interview with Phil Tougas. Hello, is this Phil?
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm I'm okay. There's a lot of stuff going on at the same time right now, so it's already starting with a tough question to answer.
Oh shit!
But I guess I'm okay. What about you?
I'm doing A-okay. Thank you for being here today, and thank you for being here in the midst of all this crazy stuff that's happening, I suppose.
Yeah, no problem.
First thing I want to ask you right off the bat, Stygian's been out for a couple of days now. People are already calling it a Funeral Doom masterpiece and a contender for Album of the Year. How does that make you feel? How do you respond to that?
I don't know. I guess people are really depressed right now. So I guess that's great. I'm kind of stoked. But at the same time, it's kind of weird because this album.
I did not expect this to start out this funny.
This album wasn't written out of thin air. It's just. I guess you could say it came from a really personal place, and it still does. And to see that so many people seem to relate to it to the point that they're like, wow, this album is something else. That's very humbling for sure. But at the same time, it makes me think, wow, okay, there's like we all collectively need something cathartic right now, because everyone's going through some really fucked up shit, and me included. And we posted a review yesterday. The title of the review is "Time Heals Nothing," and that guy nailed it.
Wow.
Perfectly. Yeah, because that's releasing this album was like,
it's been almost
putting away something that represented a mindset that I was in so many years ago, because I wrote the album like almost 7 to 8 years ago, and releasing that was just a way of saying, okay, well, this is behind me now. But no, it is not. So it's something that follows me pretty much all the time. So it's just as it's just as actual right now as it was so many years ago. So to see that so many people seem to see that so many people react to it in a way, it's like I said, it's really surprising that to see that reaction. But at the same time, I understand that a lot of people need this cathartic experience, because like I said, everyone's going through some stuff right now, and
I think in general,
it's a conflicted. Uh, my one of my so as far as the question go, what's my reaction to the response? Like I said, it's a conflicted one for sure.
that makes sense. I mean, this has been a very challenging year for a lot of people, and I think a lot of music has been made all the more poignant and effective because of it. But I don't think anything. I don't think I've seen the level of immediate praise for any album this year that I've seen for this. I mean, I look at comment sections of the album stream on YouTube, and there's plenty of people who are just like, I don't even like Funeral Doom, and I'm really enjoying this album. And to be honest with you, I'm someone who, typically speaking, is not a huge fan of Funeral Doom, and I love the album as well. How does it feel, the idea of Stygian also being kind of a gateway album for people to enter Funeral Doom?
That's great. I like that idea. Like people will listen to the album and they like it. They're gonna check, they're gonna check like the liner notes, the lyrics, the concept, and they'll see the tank list and they'll see the bands that we thank, and they'll see, oh, well, there's a bunch of bands there. They're not all Funeral Doom, of course. There's a bunch of heavy fire metal, death metal, neoclassical stuff. But like, they'll notice a few Doom bands, and they'll maybe discover some bands through us, and like that's great because obviously, I think I as much as this genre is not exactly accessible and not exactly for everyone. I think everyone could relate to it in a way. So if music serves as a gateway for people to challenge themselves and explore their emotions, that's great. I'm all for it.
And sorry, my brain went haywire for a second there. You mentioned earlier that the things like this album, Time Doesn't Heal Anything. May I ask you what specifically inspired this album emotionally when you wrote it, when you constructed it?
Anxiety.
How much of that anxiety is still poured into Stygian? Like when you listen to it now, do you still feel that same anxiety?
Yeah, it's like it's so painful physically. It's just
wow.
It never ends. Like it's just that shit has been following me all my life. It's like I'm busy. I work on a lot of music. I work out, but it never goes away. Still, it has like I said, affected me all my life in various phases and various forms, and it gets so bad sometimes it's just physically excruciating, not to mention mentally. But yeah, there's other stuff too, but I guess when I wrote the first song, it wasn't just anxiety. It was like a direct reaction to something I had felt at the time. I was, I came back home like super cold. I was walking at night. I was walking like there was this huge winter storm, like insanely cold, and I walked for like hours, and I don't know. I was going through some stuff at the time, and that it's kind of hard to explain the way that the weather acted on my mindset at the time. It just created a melting pot of extremely negative emotions. So I came home and I wrote the song, the last song on the album. That was how I wrote it. I came back and I was just cold. I was numb. I was really depressed. I was anxious and just like when I get depressed, I sometimes I can't do shit, but that time I felt like the immediate need to,
Mm-hmm.
express something, and
Yeah.
it just came out that way, I wrote that song, uh, following that, and that's how it inspired the band, just a really intense release of emotions, really spontaneous. That's also how the other song came to life. That was later, like a year later, 2013. I was just feeling really not myself, just miserable and just really anxious. And that song came by itself. The first riff of the song, the first song, was already written a while ago, but everything else just followed from that. It just this mindset, just putting this mindset into musical form, and just like trying to express like a thought or memory through a simple melody. It's just that was the intent, and I think I succeeded in doing so. I've asked people how the album make them feel like, and well, the responses vary, of course. People are free to interpret the album however they want, but a lot of people who told me, they told me they were scared. Actually, some people told me they were scared, and like, this is fucking terrifying. But after that, it gets really emotional, and that's kind of the experience I want to offer, because I think the human psyche, the emotions we feel, there's a wide range of it, and through this, I mean, there's a extremely complex concept behind the album, but I wanted the individual songs to stand out amongst each other, to make them like express a different range of emotions, so they can also be enjoyed by themselves and interpreted in a separate way themselves, even though they're part of a bigger concept. Like I said that in an interview, but that's the Queensryche approach. You listen to Operation Mindcrime, all the songs are linked to one another in a really complex concept, but like all the individual songs, they express something different and different emotion. Whether it's well, I mean, if you know the album, you know what I'm talking about. But
yes,
that's kind of what I wanted to do. Just have the songs linked conceptually, of course, but have each of these songs have an underlying theme, or several underlying themes behind the song that expresses memories or feelings that I felt at the time that I want to express, but not like not in a cliche woe is me, I'm depressed, blah blah blah. No, it's just more in a more theatrical, romantic kind of way. So there's, like I said, a lot of ways to like I said, there's a lot of ways to interpret that, but it really came from these wave of intense emotions and anxiety that I felt at the time. That's how it began.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, some of the best music I think of all time is born out of mental anguish and despair, which is very much felt in the album. The fact that some fans were terrified is interesting as well, especially because of the final moments of Stygian 3, the third song, where you have these black metal riffs and this very aggressive percussion, and I think I even said in my review it felt like something pulled out of Emperor. And that's something I love about the album as well, is that it can be a lot of different things, and it can pull from all these different areas. It's not strictly doom metal. Was that intentional, or is that just something that came with your emotions, just like expressing certain things in certain moments through different sounds?
It was very spontaneous. I didn't want to conscious. Fuck, sorry, my I'm English is not my main language, so sometimes I stumble on
That's
a few
okay.
words. But it was really spontaneous. It wasn't intentional to just say, oh, I'm gonna write this song needs some black metal parts. No, it was just really like on the moment. If the song needed a intense, I guess, emotional release, and that was the way to go. It just, as I was writing the song, it just went that way. And this song is really unique because it's extremely cold. That's the song I wrote after my after facing the extremely cold temperatures here. The reason why I put so much melody into, like, especially the end, is because when you feel so cold, you start feeling numb, and with that numbness, there's like a weird euphoric, almost like
like an
feeling
emptiness
that you get, and it's you feel kind of warm, but at the same time you're kind of like on the verge of going into hyperthermia, and so those bursts of melodies, they come from that feeling, the feeling of almost warm numbness, which comes before the deathly cold. The character in the story, however, is unable to die. He is, after all, immortal. So that his body his body may be immortal, but the temperatures keep affecting him and just keep torturing his body. So it comes in waves, like I said. And during the black metal part, that's the part before that. There's like a calm. It goes along with the story, of course, but the black metal part signifies the part when he tries to make peace with the gods and asks them to release him from his prison. So this is why it feels like a release, an emotional release. He has finished the end of his journey, and he wants to be free. He wants to, but the way the album ends, it just never ends. That's why the black metal riff just goes on and on. It's just a long scream. It just never ends. It's like anxiety that never ends. It's basically the same thing.
Oh wow.
So yeah, it just fell that way for some reason. I like Emperor. It's not really in my top influences, if you could say. But I like them for sure. If I had to mention a black metal band that I like a lot, well, to be honest, I don't listen to black metal that much. But,
that's okay. Neither do I.
But I've always liked. Well, we're all fans of Runes of Everest, but they're not the pure black metal band.
Mm-hmm.
First two albums, especially, they're like Black Doom. It's a big inspiration on us, for sure. And I think we're all fans of Battery too, but I'm more into the Viking metal era because it's slower, more atmospheric. That's actually a huge influence on the band, like Twilight of the Gods and Amarart. That's not black metal, like I said, but Xavier is involved into the black metal scene. He's the drummer of the band. Also, he mixed the album. So his natural talent for black metal style production also, I guess, helped highlight that part of the album, the one when it goes the sole part of the album that goes black metal. He made sure to highlight that part.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it just came the way it is, spontaneously. There's a lot of people who reacted very strongly to that part. That's I guess we did something right. I didn't see any complaints, but it's cool.
I have yet to see any myself, for that matter.
Well, I'm glad to hear, man.
Mm-hmm. No, I think part of why it works so, like, from a musical standpoint as well, the album is inherently quite monotonous and lumbering by design, and very depressing, and those are all great things. And then by the end of the album, you have this very thunderous. It becomes almost the polar opposite speed wise of what it was before. And I think it took a lot of people off guard, I think, as well. Like, they were just like, whoa, where did that come from?
Yeah, for sure.
Another reviewer, Ty Tilley from Heaviest of Art, he noted a lot of influences from classic Western literature, like Hero of a Thousand Faces, Divine Comedy. He even mentioned some J.R.R. Tolkien stuff, Silmarillion. How much does Stygian pull from classic literature, if at all?
Just here and here, really. It's like the whole lore behind the album is something I created. Every character, every place, I had the artist behind the layout create a map. So it's obviously there's influences here and here, but there's not one specific work I based the lore upon. It just came out of my imagination. It's based also on a Cthulist lore, because both bands are linked conceptually.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, so when I started writing lyrics for Cthulist 10 years ago, I just started building this alternate universe layer by layer. It's sort of like a medieval world, but in the future. When I say the future, it's basically when mankind society has fallen so low that basically mankind has returned to the Stone Age, and from the Stone Age came they basically history is repeating itself. So humanity is going through a second phase of antiquity and medieval times. And in Cthulist, most of the stories happen during the year 3241. I don't know how to say the whole thing in English, but and the story behind ATRAMENTUS is happening a few centuries later. It's not the same characters. It's not exactly on the same timeline, but it's in the same universe, in the same places, basically. A lot of the stories in Cthulist happen on the western continent of this world, which is depicted on the map inside the booklet. But the story in ATRAMENTUS, the ATRAMENTUS album happens on all 5 continents. So it really expands on that. And, obviously, the idea of including a map, basing the album on this expansive fantasy world, if you will, comes from a lot of different references and literature and video games just as much. But a lot of events on the album, the end times, the Great Deluge, obviously very inspired by Greek mythology and even Christian theology. Certain various passages in the Bible which are straight up fucking terrifying. So it comes more so from that more than for example Lord of the Rings, or I like Lord of the Rings for sure, but it's not exactly,
it's not the Battle of Gondor, to say the least.
It's not exactly inspiration, but just if you read the book of Genesis, you'll see a few in the Bible, you'll see a few links, like how the way the story is told, the gods fool a mortal man into stealing the sun's essence to become immortal. They cannot do it themselves because they are lesser gods, but they fool a mortal into doing so. The sword, which he finds at the top of a Gargantuan mountain, represents the sun essence. Through the sword, he becomes immortal, but the sword represents the sun's immortal essence. So the sun dies, and following that unfortunate event, there's no more light, and a great deluge basically sweeps all over, sweeps the land, sweeps everyone away, destroys civilization as we know it. But I know that the way it is told told much like an ancient tale out of Greek mythology or the Bible. Like I said, it's not exactly accurate to how according to how science how it would happen in real life. It's much like in the book of Genesis. It's not exactly accurate to the findings of paleontology and geography, and it's not exactly scientifically accurate, but that's not the point. The point is to create an ancient lore, fictional lore, like an old tale. So I don't exactly follow the logic of science through this tale and the way the events occur. So through this cataclysm, everyone dies. And the god of the winds, ATRAMENTUS, that's the name of the band, but also the name of the deity of the winds. The winds get so powerful and so defeating that everyone who hears these winds die. That's why in the middle of the first song you have this extremely long scream that never ends. That's the screaming of the people who are dying, but also melded with the sound of the winds just going and droning and droning. That's what I'm saying in the lyrics. I say the word droning, 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 and it's the powerful winds just screaming and just taking everyone away. And the character is immortal. He just sees that, and he just, he can't do anything. The only thing he can do is, the gods are laughing at him, and he just, the only thing he can do is just hide away in his castle and sleep and try to sleep for eternity. You can't spend an eternity alone by yourself and just be there. You'd rather just sleep it off. So that's what he does, and that's directly linked to how you feel when you get so depressed and anxiety, anxious. You just want to sleep. You just want to go away. You just want to go like just forget it. But that's where the second song comes in. It's also written. I say written because there's actually lyrics that go along with the ambient song, and that describes how it feels like to have nightmares that are fueled by anxiety, and also when that happens, you're susceptible to suffer from sleep paralysis, and that's exactly what the character goes through.
Jesus.
I don't know if you ever had sleep paralysis. It's fucking terrifying. You're like, you can't move, you almost can't breathe, and you feel like a presence near you, but you can't look at it because you can't move. It's like you're in a dream, but at the same time you're awake. But since you're sort of in that dream, your body it's like your body has been put into lockdown. And I've tried to really portray that through the lyrics, and the song, the way the song builds, the dark ambient song builds, it's to really reflect that physical state, and the way the samples are arranged, it goes along with what is going on outside, because the character is sleeping hidden away in his impregnable fortress, but he hears the sounds from outside his window because he is still asleep. But when you suffer from sleep paralysis, you can still hear what is happening around you. So he hears the cataclysm, the waves of water just sweeping away everything. That's why you get to hear this like expanding sound of water crashing around the castle and everything. We created a sample that kind of reflects that. So that all of that is not inspired by any literature or stuff. It's just really crazy, like experiences I've had, but they're like romanticized. I don't know if I said that name correctly, but
No, you're good.
Yeah, so the way it creates a more vivid image of of it than just writing, rather than just making the lyrics feel like a personal diary, which I don't have anything against. A lot of doom bands do go for that lyrical approach, but I rather have this concept with underlying themes linked to real life occurrences, but told through this this fictional fantasy like vision. It just creates some more, in my opinion, it creates some more epic, really. Sorry, I'm looking for my words right now.
It's okay.
It just makes for a more like a vivid experience, in my opinion.
It almost
so this character not only suffers from sleep paralysis, he hears voices, and people from outside his castle trying to open the doors, but he can't move, and that's just triggers even more anxiety. And that's why at the end of the dark ambient song you hear this loud gasp for air, because that's like when you finally get the chance to breathe again. That's another thing, however, that's sleep apnea. But and that's that stage of the song is only 5 minutes, but thousands of years go by during that song. When you dream, you don't really, all notion of time is irrelevant when you dream. You can dream for what seems like an eternity, and only 4 minutes have passed by, but in this case, it just goes on forever and forever and forever. That brings us to the last song, when he wakes up after centuries and the world is, well, centuries, I mean millennia. He wakes up to a world that's completely frozen. That's when the waters have completely swept away everything, and the waters have basically frozen after millennia of sunless, an environment without a sun. So that's where his epic journey begins. He just tries to find human life, and he just walks the entire earth for centuries and millennia, and he just, he completely breaks down. So that reflects, I guess, when I walked through that storm for hours. Again, you'll maybe feel a few inspirations from what you mentioned earlier, classical and modern literature, a few references here and there, but again, it's completely inspired by a personal experience that I romanticize. I'm still struggling with that word.
It's okay. If it makes you feel better, I failed grade 4 French, so.
Well, French is, they throw you some really fucked up curveballs in French class. So I don't blame you.
That makes me feel a little better now, actually.
It's a bitch of a language to master, but not to coming back to what I said about the personal experience being romanticized. I felt like that was more important than directly basing myself on. I mean, there's a few nods for sure, but this fictional world called the Perpetual Plains is created entirely out of thin air. I will, however, concede that the map drawn in the LP is in fact inspired by Chrono Trigger, a great RPG from the 90s.
Oh, fantastic game.
Yeah, it's a great game, and I wanted to have this visual representation in the ATRAMENTUS album. This map will also make its comeback on the next CHTH'ILIST album because, like I said, both bands expand on the same universe. Those stories, however, happen on a different timeline, a different era.
Mm-hmm.
And with no mutual characters, but they're still linked. The reason why it's called the Perpetual Planes is because this world has suffered through a lot of cataclysms, but has always remained the same. A lot of areas in the map, a lot of there's a bunch of cities depicted on the map, but there's a few places like the Exol. Exol is an ancient cathedral with a necropolis underneath it. This actually makes an appearance also on the Eternity's End album. It's my power metal band, and that band also has an expansive lore with links and references to both of these bands. So I'm really trying to create an expansive world through several of my bands. And these monuments, these places are basically undying. So the reason why, like I said, I called it the Perpetual Plains is because it's an undying land. Like it's a land that lives on forever, but everyone it has faced many cataclysms, a lot of extinctions. So while some of these monuments and ancient places remain, its inhabitants are not permanent. And the Tramentus, however, I won't spoil it too much, but the next album will be a continuation of that story, but millennia later.
So you're already.
So the next album is going to be a direct continuation of that, but
okay.
in a completely, it will have a completely different mood and atmosphere. The name itself, the Perpetual Plains, implies, in a way, that there is in fact another chapter to this story, because eternity, I guess eternity never ends really. So, but like I said, I won't spoil too much of it because I think it's going to be extremely. Next record, I don't know when. Could take many years, but I think it's going to be a very intricate and interesting turn of events.
Well, that sounds really exciting.
Yeah. So the last song, like I said, it's just a big journey through these frozen wastelands and ruins. So yeah, I think that's. I just wanted to make a summary of the concept, in the best of my ability to illustrate that. Although you'll find hints and traces of other media and other literature that influence this concept, everything is based on real life experiences and memories that happened to me. The first song represents anger, fear, anxiety, and, everything. There's a ray of hope in the middle of the song, like the clean vocals, but then it becomes even darker again, even slower. That's when that's what you experience when you're going through something excruciating. You start feeling good again, but after that it gets even worse. Second song represents even more fear, but this time in the form of anxiety-induced nightmares and dreams and sleep paralysis, and the willingness to the need to isolate yourself, to ignore these feelings, but it just gets even worse in your sleep. I've had problems with that. And the last song just represents pure loss and just trying to accept what's in front of you, but you can't. And the extreme uh, um, feeling of numbness and coldness when you face you face the winter, and you just so you can feel something else. You you want to feel cold instead of feeling bad.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically
I can
summary
relate
of
to
it.
that.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I'm in a pretty good mental state now, but when I was younger, maybe 17, 18, still living with my folks, and I didn't leave my house for months. I didn't shave. I didn't say hi to anyone, and I went outside one day pretty much to just feel something. I was like, I hope it rains. I hope it snows. I hope something happens. Um,
Yeah.
so I can relate to that a lot, and it's actually I didn't I mean I knew there was a large lore to Atramentus, but I don't think I ever bothered to think how deep it goes, and I never considered that it crosses over with these other projects, Cathartic, Eternity's End. With that thought in mind, is there a possibility that these worlds could like intersect somehow, like an album where the universes meet up, like some kind, I don't know,
I think it's
how do I put it, like a big
uh,
crossover event?
well, I think it's unlikely because these bands, they all share the same lore, but they're so different musically.
Mm-hmm.
Infinity's End is extremely positive, uh, self-empowering, power speed metal, extremely energetic,
Oh yeah.
extremely powerful. It's a T-list, especially on the next record, is going to be very bizarre, very very weird. It's gonna go in depth into like extremely strange soundscapes, and even almost, well, I won't say psychedelic, but just really um,
Atmospheric.
that is gonna be that is gonna there's gonna be some anxiety inducing moments on that album for sure.
Okay.
But there's gonna be a lot of bizarre moments, and this one song we wrote recently it feels really strange. It feels like classic uh, Finnish and Swedish death metal put together, but mixed with weird whole tone scales and almost Alan Oldsworth sounding leads. Almost like it's almost like if you played classic death metal of Scandinavian death metal with a lot of changing rhythms. Actually, the tempos change at every fucking riff, but the atmosphere, the song, the scales we use, it almost sounds like it's akin. It's not fusion jazz, but it's akin to fusion jazz anyway. So it's really bizarre. Atramentus is just completely cold, so I mean, these bands are completely different. I'm not really sure there's going to be crossover because it all depends on different timelines.
Mm-hmm.
The only things that have in common is, like I said, those monuments and those certain of these places. They'll have they'll be mentioned in some of these bands' albums. Certain towers or monuments that are just there forever. But aside from that, these characters have no direct relation to each other, and I don't think there's going to be any direct crossover. It's just because here's the thing. The reason why I wanted to link these lores together, these bands together, is all they express a wide variety of emotions, and they play a different style, but a lot of them have a lot of the same underlying themes. There's a lot of stuff I want to explore, like dreams, time travel, alternate dimensions, spirituality, and religion. And all of these bands share a few of these traits through the lyrics. T-list is more like horror stories, but there's always references to polytheism and spirituality and
Mm-hmm.
dreams and alternate dimensions. Same for Eternity's End. This big concept of behind Eternity's End is about, the basically humankind, uh, you know, going through, traveling through the stars and expanding upon the universe, only to be driven away by a sentient biomechanical race known as the Priapus, who basically wage war on them and try to commit genocide on them. And that race of biomechanical beings have been created by this deity, this ever-present force of consciousness. So there's, like I said, there's a lot of similarities in these approaches and underlying themes. So I felt like there was a need to, create an ever-expanding world with these bands, but at the same time making these bands retain their own unique lyrical approach, mm-hmm. and the emotions they would portray with these lyrics as much as the music. That's, there's some people that just ask me, why not make a tremendous death metal band? It's because I want to explore these themes through different emotions, and I think death metal, as much as it can be varied, it's not exactly unlimited, and different emotions, different colors calls for different styles of music. I've always
mm-hmm.
said
Absolutely.
that I want to create music in every style of music I can possibly can. So I don't think there's a point in making another death metal band based on the same lore. Just I want to explore that lore fully through the medium of other styles of music, whether it's Funeral Doom or maybe black metal at some point. But I have a lot of difficulties with the black metal scene right now, so it's probably not gonna happen anytime soon. But I'm just saying, like, mm-hmm. There's no point for me just create another band exactly like The'Ilist just to expand on the lore. I'd rather do it through another style of music, to paint it in another light, if you will.
Are there any other, with this in mind, are there any other themes and genres you want to bring into this world? Like, say, for instance, a new band that's maybe a thrash metal band, or maybe a sludge metal band, but still existing in this universe?
Well, aside from the black metal thing I mentioned, I'm not sure. I do want to create a purely... I'm actually working on creating a new band right now. I already have a power metal band, but I want to create a power metal band that has a purely American sound,
okay.
Like Lethal and Crimson Glory, in the whole Queensryche and
yes.
Here Apparent. But that's probably not going to be on the same lore. I think the concept behind that band is going to be purely rebellious, dystopic universe, completely apart. There's going to be a extremely big political message without going over the top and making it the sole purpose of the band. I want to create a very authentic American old school power metal experience, dystopic timeline, but I don't think it's going to have any relation to this expansive lore. It doesn't really call for it.
It still sounds really exciting.
Pardon?
Still sounds very exciting, though. I mean, I love Crimson Glory and old school Queensryche, so that sounds like that'll be amazing to me.
Yeah. I know I have the capabilities to write music like this. I in fact already have a song, this project. However, finding a vocalist for that is going to be really difficult. I have someone in mind, but I'm not exactly sure. Here's the thing: my father and my uncles were in the first heavy metal band in Quebec called DDT. They formed in '79. They were the first heavy metal band. Like, they even says it in the book on the Quebec heavy metal history.
Oh, wow.
They're the first band ever. So
heavy metal runs in the family then.
this. They always had this presence in the scene. The band broke up in '91. The band were formed with me on guitar and the drummer of First Fragment on drums. We did a show we did a live DVD 2 years ago. We played a show with Exciter. It was a great time. My father was the one who really pushed for that. He's always been a lifelong heavy metal fan. You know, we always like to play music together and stuff. So so we did that show, but DDT didn't do anything much after. So he had this need to play heavy metal band. To play in a heavy metal band. So he formed a Judas Priest cover band with a lot of people around his age, and they're actually, I've heard their rehearsals, and it sounds extremely faithful to the original sound of the band, and the vocals sound exactly like Rob Alford. It's amazing, but it's true. So I heard these recordings, and I said, "Hey, Dad, can you maybe hook me up with this guy? Because I have a new band I'm working on, and maybe he could sing. Because otherwise, I don't know. There's not a lot of vocalists in Quebec who can sing the stuff I want to write, you know. So it's just in Eternity's End, the vocalist is the vocalist of Hebrea, one of my all-time favorite. The first Hebrea album is probably the best modern power metal album I've heard, and that vocalist is completely out of this world. But obviously, he doesn't live in my area. We're all apart from one another. You know, Christian and Hans Grossman, the band's guitarist and drummer in Eternity's End, they live in Germany. Jimmy Pitts, the keyboardist, lives in the U.S. Mike Lepon, the bassist of Symphony X, also a bassist of the band, lives in the U.S. also, but a different state. We're all apart from one another. And with this new band, I want to create a purely Quebec lineup, not another international band, because that really complicates things. So I don't know how long that'll take. Probably going to be a few years until people hear about it, but it's in the works. Like I said, it won't be related to the lore with these three bands I mentioned, but it's going to be a separate thing, and I think it's going to be great. First Fragment, my neoclassical tech debt project, has an expansive lore into it, but that's purely the works of my vocalists. I'm not involved into it, so it's a separate thing. So the only band that would probably expand upon that lore, like I said earlier, would probably be a black metal band. But like I said, I have a few. I have a few metal blockades that kind of makes me hesitant to associate myself with the black metal scene. So
I can understand that. Black metal is it can be weird. It can be sketchy. You know.
Yeah, I think you can definitely make authentic, true black metal. That's what I would do. A just completely authentic experience of extremely cold European sounding black metal without influences from North American, U.S. and Quebec black metal, because I don't have anything against these bands, but that's the last thing I want to sound like. But I would be extremely quick to completely make people know where I stand. It's like, yeah, this is gonna be a true black metal release in spirit, but no
church burnings.
I'm just gonna say, this is true black metal for people who wants to hear this style of music, but don't think for a second we're politically we have the same political inclination as so many of the reactionary people in the scene who have basically the same mentality as their evangelical grandparents. You know,
it's a problem.
I would be extremely quick to distance myself from that.
I've
You know,
I've tried everything I can to, because I have the exact same issues with black metal. Just like, I'm not a fan of the politics that are often embedded in that scene, and the politics that the black metal diehard fans are supporting, and I can
here's the
totally
thing.
understand that.
I don't want to get too political, but metal has always been. You listen to Queensryche, you listen to like the classics, Judas Priest, even Black Sabbath. Metal has always been rebellious, anti-authority. A lot of people in the black metal scene, like I said, they have the same views on life and politics as their evangelical grandparents, extremely reactionary and pro authority and pro fucking bootlickers and everywhere in this
Yeah,
fucking scene. I don't fuck with that.
absolutely. I'm with you
No,
100%.
I don't want to be. I don't want to I wouldn't. I don't want to go jump onto the whole anti-fascist black metal gimmick. I know I'm an anti-fascist, but I don't want to make that I wouldn't make that the focus of the band. I want to create. I would create true black metal, but I would be extremely quick to not associate with any right-wing beliefs or right-wing associations or right-wing labels. I would just do my own thing, and if people don't like it because it's not this guy's a leftist or whatever, I don't fucking give a shit.
Yeah,
It's like
same.
it's like these people they say they like the music, but they say they don't support the message, but that also applies the other way too. I've seen a lot of people shit on Catharist when they learned that, well, basically all of us are, well, we're not, swinging on the side of the political spectrum. Learning that our music is its own thing. It's not political, but personally, all of us were pretty openly anti-fascist, and all this like that. It's like, okay, well, it's just, you can't even apply your own principles to the music you listen to. You claim, oh yeah, I like this right-wing band, even though I, don't approve of the message, but they see a leftist band and they're like, oh well, these guys are leftists in real life, so I don't like their music. It's
Exactly.
just hypocrisy. I like a bunch of bands that I like the music, but if I met them in person, I would probably spit in their face, But it's like, it's just music at this point. But these people cannot apply their own principles universally. That I don't trust these people.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's my whole thing with black metal. Like I said, it would probably a very cathartic experience, but since the style has so much controversy, it would be a very trying experience. But yeah, we'll see how the future goes, and it's probably I want to focus on creating music. That's the first and foremost thing. I don't want to be seen as a political activist. I have my own beliefs and everything, and I feel strongly about them. But I rather let other people do that with their music, while I would just want to expand on the lore I created and just focus on that directly.
I'd actually be very excited to hear that black metal album now. I think you've got a pretty good idea of the genre and how it should be, or at least how it should be in your mind. I'd be very excited to hear that if that's the route for a new project.
Yeah, it's gonna take a few years for sure. I have so much. Just next year, I hope to release, at least the first Fragment album, the new Eternity's End album. There's also the Funebrarum album that's been on the wraps for a while. It's mastered and everything, but still working on artwork and everything. The album is going to be extremely crushing, a true death metal authentic experience. It's definitely one of the most sinister sounding death metal albums I've ever done. So I hope at least next year these 3 releases will come to fruition. And after that is done, I can focus on new projects, hopefully. So I'm trying to do one thing at a time, but like I said earlier, I definitely want to try to create as many styles as possible. I've also been on the lookout for an AOR project. I like melodic hard rock, especially 80s melodic hard rock, synth-driven hard rock. AOR stands for album-oriented rock.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, like I said, synth-driven hard rock, sometimes bordering on classic heavy metal, but I would want to create this very specific, nostalgic 80s vibe, which goes along well with what I like to create with the solos. If you notice on the ATRAMENTUS album, solos on the last song are very 80s influenced, and I want to expand on that vibe, but through a very, I don't want to say retro, I hate that word, but a very
Old
soft,
school?
catchy, melodic hard rock band. That's also one thing I want to do amidst all of that. So it never really ends. Really, it's just this musical quest to, I don't want to pigeonhole myself into one thing. So I just want to create as much as possible.
Oh, that's awesome.
So as long, it'll take as long as it needs, but that's also in the plans for sure.
I've got one more question for you, and after that, I'll let you go. I've got to maybe go myself in a little bit.
Yeah.
How do you balance being a part of so many different projects at once? I mean, Cathartic, First Fragment, Eternity's End, ATRAMENTUS, this AOR project, this heavy metal project. How do you balance all of that? Because I feel like I would just go insane personally.
Well, it's definitely exhausting mentally, physically, but the key is to not do everything all at once. I try to dedicate a certain portion of the year, certain portion of the month to one band. After that, I move on to the next. I do what I need to do with this band, and my level of involvement varies from one band to another. Like, for example, Cosmic Atrophy, this project I have with Corey Richards, I don't do any of the writing. I just do vocals and, some really strange guitar work. So since I don't do any writing, I'm more flexible in that matter. For Funebrarum, for example, when we focus on writing songs and recording, it was done on a specific period of the year where we just met up and dedicated a period of our time to just work on that album. And when I came back home, because I always go like in the U.S. to jam with them and write. We did a lot of tours. We did tours in Mexico and Europe and stuff. When we wrote stuff, we always went to Portland, one of my favorite places in the U.S., or New York, and we just dedicated a small portion of our time. And that applies to every other band. It's like, okay, I'll dedicate this month to writing for First Fragment and recording First Fragment. The next month, when that's done, I'm just going to focus on Eternity's End, and Eternity's End, Christian's in the same boat. He's back in Obscura now. Obscura is an extremely huge band. He's back in Paradox. So he's like, he has to focus a certain period of his year on other bands. So we agree on which period of the year we're going to be focusing on this band. So that gives you an idea of my the way I do things. I'm actually, I was going to go on tour in April with Cathartic, but I was actually going to go on tour in October, November with a band from the U.S. That's postponed next year. On top of that, I joined a new band from California, which I will reveal soon. So those two bands, I have to dedicate a I'm gonna have to dedicate a period of next year for these two bands as well. But it's all going according to plan as to what I'm gonna do with my other bands. I know the other bands are going to require some time during next year, and the reason why I joined these two bands is because, well, I'm gonna be able to make that fit in. It does get too much at one point. I left 3 bands last year, but it was because I did a lot of albums with these bands, and I felt like I said what I needed to say with these bands. I did 3 Zilla 3 albums, and I was like, okay, well, the last one is the best one we did, and I'm just gonna leave my spot for the next guitarist. And I said what I needed to say with this band. And same for Xerox, you know. I depleted my entire repertoire for this style of music. So I was like, okay, well, you know, I did my part, and we had some great times, and we did some great music, but I gotta focus on the next step, you know. And I left Equipoise also. We did an album together. It was great. We did we went on the U.S. Billboard. That was really cool. But, you know, it's like, I'd rather have one deathbed band rather than 2, because it goes against my musical desires to make as many styles as possible. But if I am in too many bands that play a similar style of music, although for Fragment and Equipoise are very different, it unfortunately creates stagnation, and I want to avoid that. So I left on good terms, and, you know, so it does get much, like I said, but I try to not overthink things and just go with the flow and let the riffs flow and see where that takes me.
Wow, I think it's safe to say that you might be one of the busiest people in underground metal right now. That's incredible, man.
Thanks, I appreciate the compliment. Yeah, it's draining at times, but, you know, I at the same time I love it. It just, you know, it's just really fulfilling, and it creates many opportunities. This year was a very slow and terrible year, but last year I had some of the best experiences I've ever had in my life just because of this music, and just I was able to travel. I think there was not a month in last year that I was not traveling anywhere. I was not traveling somewhere. You know, whether it was with Fragment or Cathartic or Funebrarum, all these bands played overseas. So, you know, that's one of the reasons why I want to do it, create more opportunities to live outstanding experiences.
That's incredible. That's something I've always hoped for with a band. I was just like, I mean, I've played in bands for the years, and I've always said I don't care about being famous. I don't care about making money. I care about making music and maybe getting to see some cool things. That's the cool thing about being in a band. It's not an experience like anything else.
I've seen so many cool things, dude. Like, I never thought I would go to fucking Tasmania, but I went to play in Tasmania.
I've never even thought of going to Tasmania.
I was like, wow, I actually went there. But, you know, like I said, it's like you play in many bands, you have many experiences, and while you play in these bands, you met other musicians with the bands you play with on the same bill. You get friends with these bands, and whoops, that's exactly what happened with the band that asked me to fill in on a 2-month tour. It's because I played with them last year. You know, that's how opportunities are made, man. Just playing around and meeting people, it never ends. So that's what I want to do, you know.
That's incredible. Well, thank you very much for your time here today. Thank you for everything. I have a deeper understanding of Stygian and ATRAMENTUS and this sonic universe I didn't have before. So thank you very much. Anything else you want to say to people listening to this at home?
Well, I hope that, you know, if the album spoke to them in a personal way, because of how they feel right now. You know, I don't. I kind of want to say to them, it will be okay, and you'll get better, and that's true. But at the same time, I should probably follow my own advice. And but yeah, I just kidding aside, I'm just kind of stoked on the. Like I said, I'm still conflicted, but at the same time stoked on the reaction, and I hope that if anyone is listening to this that enjoyed the album, do take a chance and explore funeral doom as a genre, because if our album is a gateway album, you're gonna have one hell of a ride discovering these other bands. It's a whole new world opening up to you, and yeah, it's always a extremely exciting experience. I say exciting, but it's ironic to say exciting. But yeah, no,
inherently exciting. Objectively, no.
Yeah. But I'm definitely humbled, and yeah, I don't have much else to say.
That's
just be
all.
Careful out there.
Yeah, that too. Everyone, wash your hands and be careful.
Yeah.
Thank you very much again, Phil, for your time.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, thanks for yours.
And here's hoping we'll hear from you again real soon, whether it's an ATRAMENTUS record, CHTHE'ILIST, or something else.
I hope so too, man. Not sure when the CHTHE'ILIST album is going to be released exactly, but working hard on it. I know next year is going to be an extremely busy year for releases. Probably one of my busiest yet, so we'll see how it goes.
I'm looking forward to hearing it all. You take care.
You as well.
Thank you to Hammer for that special introduction, which in retrospect does feel a little ironic, but I whatever. They made me an introduction. I'm gonna use it, goddammit. Check out their album Immortals on Spotify, and of course check out all of Phil's music as well, be it ATRAMENTUS, CHTHE'ILIST, First Fragment, or something else. Press this button right here to subscribe if you liked what you saw here today and you want updates on the Metal Meltdown fucking immediately. And as always, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.